policing in this country. The local control of police forces is an essential element of that system. Chief constables in this country, unlike some continental countries, do not come under the direction of a Minister of the Interior in the enforcement of the law. The responsibility of deciding how an offence should be investigated is for them and them alone. In the 21st century, great changes have happened. Oversight of the police is no longer left to local watch committees of councillors and specially appointed people calling chief constables to account. Across England, there are now locally elected police and crime commissioners. West Yorkshire, the huge area the Yorkshire Ripper haunted for 8 years, has, since 2021, been served by an elected female mayor, a former actress and ex-MP who also substitutes as the police and crime commissioner. 40 years earlier, when the Yorkshire Ripper case concluded, it became abundantly obvious that Britain's chief constables and the police service as a whole had disastrously failed to learn the lessons of the Black Panther investigation. The government and its law officers, along with senior officials at the Home Office, saw no merit at all in an agonising public debate into the Ripper investigation. MPs' demands for transparency were turned down, and there would be no public inquiry. But there was a major shock for the criminal justice establishment when Sutcliffe's trial opened at the Old Bailey in London. The prosecution, led by the Attorney General Sir Michael Havers, pushed for a suspiciously speedy hearing, accepting Peter Sutcliffe's guilty plea to the manslaughter of 13 women on the grounds that his mental illness had diminished his responsibility for his crimes. It all seemed done and dusted, and it was expected that the court proceedings would probably be over within half a day because both defence and prosecution were entirely happy with the plea. Except they had not reckoned with the reaction of the judge. To his eternal and considerable credit, Mr. Justice Boreham refused what was, in essence, a plea bargain. Instead, he ordered a full and open trial by jury to determine whether Sutcliffe was mad or bad. The jury would hear the evidence and decide for themselves whether Sutcliffe was guilty or not guilty of murdering 13 women, or was guilty of manslaughter because he did not know what he was doing. Justice demanded that this very grave matter should not be swept under the carpet. Ultimately, he was convicted and given a 30-year minimum sentence. It still seems extraordinary, decades later, that the arguments about Sutcliffe's responsibility for his crimes just never went away. A new team of lawyers came back with a vengeance in 2010 when the Yorkshire Ripper went to court saying that, having served his minimum sentence, he was entitled to know when he would be released. For the public at large, the very idea seemed preposterous. Incredible, even. But Sutcliffe's psychiatrists at Broadmoor Secure Hospital had declared great success in treating him and were arguing that all along he had suffered from mental illness, meaning he had not been responsible when he committed 13 murders. Sutcliffe's lawyers contended that this meant he was entitled to a reduction of his minimum sentence. All this was made possible because the European Court of Human Rights in 2002 ruled that judges, not the Home Secretary, should decide how long a lifer spends in jail. So once again, Peter Sutcliffe was centre stage and making headlines. Once more, his activities invaded the psyche of the great British public, fearful the courts might actually believe he was almost an unintended victim of the Ripper case and set him free. Politically, even the very idea was quite toxic, and the Prime Minister and Justice Secretary were both put on the spot, with an anxious public wanting to know, is this man actually going to be freed? Dealing with one of the most notorious killers in British criminal history, the Yorkshire Ripper case raised many crucial questions. Before her death, Myra Hindley, the 1960s Moors murderer of several children, had routinely tested the patience of the public with her woeful cries that she had served her time. Now another notorious serial killer was following suit. 40 years ago, the thought that Sutcliffe would ever be freed was utterly fanciful. Then Britain woke up and found that 3 decades had simply slipped by. The 30-year minimum sentence awarded at the Old Bailey in May 1981 was almost up, and the law had also changed. After Sutcliffe was